you. Here we go. Okay. So you've been warned, you are being recorded. Welcome, Simona. Thank you for agreeing to be on the Inspired Artist podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So the last time we saw each other, we taught a workshop together, and that was the first time that I had experienced your dance teaching style. I've seen your dances before, but you froze. Uh-oh. I'll wait. It says it's probably me. Okay, there we go. Hi. You back?
Okay. Yes.
It says my internet is unstable, unfortunately, but we'll try to get through this. And that was sort of like a blend of belly dancing. It seemed like Qigong. Do you want to kind of explain how you came to meld like these traditions together?
Yes. So I'm the creator of this method, the sacred dance method, which I call Kundalini rhythms dance. Basically, it comes from practices and studies that I have done since I was a teenager. I have studied sacred dance and anthropology of dance at university, and have been dancing on stage since I was 16, 17. And so I did my experience in vibrational arts, Qigong, and yoga since I was very, very little. So a few years ago, when I left the Kundalini yoga community, I needed to retune into that space of creative arts and dynamic and conscious movement. So I kind of spiritually and with my heart, I went back to my years on stage, years at the university, and I started to remember that there was already something in the oven cooking for me. Just I left it into the oven, and so 3 or 4 years ago, I said, no, I needed to take that back and started to elaborate, integrate. Of course, I started to study more the Qigong tradition, the Shaolin tradition, and the Thai tradition of Qigong, which is more feminine than the Shaolin. And I started to notice that a lot of these beautiful movements in Qigong, they look like a dance, especially when you really enter into the flow of meditation. So belly dance, oriental dance, is a type of dance that really recall the feminine energy. It's a sacred type of dance. Originally, it's considered one of the oldest forms of dance in the world, like the oldest of all. And it was connected to the goddess rituals and worships. So connecting this type of dance with the Qigong, it just came so natural. So instead to make the movement of oriental dance so fast, I make them slower. And I combine with certain movement of Qigong, and it just became so harmonious. So when I do Kundalini rhythms dance, I integrate oriental dance because it's a natural dance for many. It actually, if you tune in into your heart space, the movements will become very spontaneous. And the Qigong is also a very natural form of movements. And then I add energy healing because I'm trained as an energy healer, and of course meditation because I practice meditation since I was a child as well. So it's been like a 20 years path of research and observing, using it on myself and on my students, with my students. It's been a process. And I think now is getting this beautiful form that you saw that really combines, it integrates very well, I would say, Oriental dance and Qigong. Of course, all the rest, it just comes along. Come along.
So my first experience of belly dance was a birthday party for my grandfather. And they hire, a belly dancer. I'm really curious because so Qigong seems like you're very internally focused when you're doing it. I've never actually done it, but I guess I have a little bit with you. Belly dance, and I wonder if this was its original purpose or if it's just what it became, seems to be like an attracting of men dance. Okay, so speak to me about that.
No, so as I was saying before, both movements, arts, so Qigong and Oriental dance, they come from within. So it's an internal form. Belly dance, if you don't start from the inside, it doesn't happen because it gets you in touch with that feminine aspect of yourself that unless you allow it, it's very difficult to express it. As I was saying before, it has origin, it's very ancient. There are traces back to the Neolithic time and even Upper Paleolithic time. So we're talking about a few thousand years back. And originally it was connected to the goddess rituals because more than 10,000 years ago, especially the European areas, what is today Europe and Middle East, was a goddess worshippers type of land. So the dance, as well as the music, the drumming, was connected to the ritual of the goddess, fertility, weddings, funerals. Everything was connected to the goddess, and dance and drumming were part of these performances or rituals. So that's the origin, and there are really techniques like the belly roll that we did during the workshop, or the spinal undulation, or the H shape, or the chest roll. Those are all movements that if you study, they activate certain flow of energy. Just to give you an example, the belly roll was used in a circle of women with the drums playing in the background when a woman had to deliver a baby, because this circle of women with the belly rolling in this way and the drumming playing was helping the woman in delivering moment to relax and relax the muscles and allow the delivering to be easy. So it was part of that type of ritual. With time, the belly dance, the Oriental dance, has been associated with the Arabic world, because that's where it developed as we see it today. But it's a type of dance that is danced almost everywhere in Europe. So the Middle Eastern country like Romania, Hungary, all these countries, they have a tradition. Greece, they have a tradition of dance that looks like belly dance. But what we know today is more, it has developed within the Egyptian culture and then in other country. So it's kind of complex, but just to answer your question, there are 2 or even 3 paths that you can take as a belly dancer. There are belly dancers that, yes, they use their body to attract money and to attract men.
Same thing.
That's a reality. We cannot say it's not like that because it wouldn't be true. There is that reality, and they get engaged into specific parties, and they're their choice. They have very precise rules. Some of them get exploited. There is no doubt. Then there is a part of belly dancers. They are professional belly dancers. They do not do party for men. They do weddings. They do, especially wedding, but they do really performances in theaters and competitions. And you have to have very specific skills for that. And it's very tough to be a belly dancer. You have to train every day, because every day there is something new to discover with your body. And you need a lot of stamina to perform at that level. But they perform and they are very highly respected. There are belly dancers that are worldwide known, and they are like divine dancers. And then there is the other path, which is the sacred belly dancers, which is who is me, for example, and there are a few others. Like I have one of my teachers is also a sacred belly dancer, sorry, and she's also embracing the sacred path. She does both. She does burlesque and she does the belly dance. Mm-hmm. It's a very empowering type of dance for women, because when you drop your self-limitation about moving your body in that way and you get in touch with that feminine way, there is immediately a moment where you feel the sacred feminine running through you, and it's incredibly empowering. Then what you want to do with that energy, if you want to entertain men or if you want to uplift other women, that's a choice, of course.
Right.
But it's not just entertaining men. Actually, most of the belly dancers do not entertain men.
Right. No, I that's just kind of the only, I think, depiction of it that I've ever seen in, movies or, and like I said, at my grandfather's birthday or whatever. So I feel like that's probably not just me, that a lot of people associate belly dancing with kind of like
unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
And for a while, I thought the same myself. And because I have been doing belly dance for many, many years, and then I stopped. And then I started again like 4 years ago when I left the yoga community. And I discovered, and I started to study, because I started to do some research about the origin of certain type of dance. And I was looking for Persian dance. And through Persian dance, I got into belly dance again. And I started to say, wait a second. And I started to do research, and I started to see the connection with the goddess rituals and understand that it's not about showing off the body. It's not about entertaining men, but it has a lot to do with really empowering women to get confident and self-confident with their body, accept their body, because you can find belly dancers that have all forms and shapes. And some of them are very, very, very good.
Yeah.
So
it's very subtle too, just like the Qigong. I mean, I don't think I really appreciated that until I was doing it. Just how you do feel there's like a lot more going on inside you than actually can be seen, right?
Yes. It's like, it's really, I think it's like everything, like even in yoga, you can practice yoga in a physical way.
Right.
Like when I teach yin yoga, I have people say, oh, that's stretching. Wait, there is more than stretching happening. If you allow it to happen, you will see that there is more than just stretching. Or when you do vinyasa or other forms of yoga, it's not just the physical happening, there is something else happening, but you have to give space to that something else to happen, to manifest, or to reveal itself to you. And the same goes with belly dance. So once you have the experience and you have a teacher that can bring you within and feel the body from within, it becomes incredibly therapeutic. It's a weird word in English, but you understood it. So yes, it's very, very subtle.
Yeah. But it's funny because I remember when I was doing Kundalini yoga, when I was in the 3HO cult in like a big way, wearing the turban, and I don't think I really was conscious of how male it was and how rigid everything was. I mean, I felt rigidly in it, but I don't think I was aware of that like lack of femininity as you're talking about. And I remember Butchin. Did you ever meet Butchin from Solstice?
Yes.
I remember her.
Yeah, the singer, right?
Yeah, she was starting kind of from Canada. Yeah.
From Canada.
She was kind of starting to veer off a little bit and, you know, explore other things. She was kind of falling in love with Mexico. Ironically, I'm in Mexico now. But she mentioned something about that, about how like she wanted, you know, to be more in like more practices that embraced more femininity, more, you know, flexibility. And it was sort of one of those things that was like a seed that was planted in my head, but I wasn't really able to do anything with it in that moment. But it's interesting because we both came, right? It's like you had this, then you were in this very rigid practice of Kundalini yoga, and then you sort of came back to this other thing. And I feel like I'm kind of doing that too. There's a lot more flexibility now in my life.
That's good. Consider that when I was up to the year when I graduated from university, and consider that I didn't embrace completely Kundalini yoga until I moved to another town where I was, because I started Kundalini yoga in 2001. Then I went to university and I graduated in 2004. In these 4 years, I took the teacher training in Kundalini yoga, but I was always, you know, escaping the system. And during this time, you know, I was in acting company, and I was always, you know, well-dressed, heels, short skirt, very well-dressed, but I was very, very feminine in everything I was expressing. I was a little bit of a diva at that time. And then after graduating, I moved to Rome, and you know, I entered the system without even realizing it. I went from heels to flat shoes, like in a matter of a month. No makeup, from lipstick to no makeup at all. And to hear, even when I put a little bit of rímel, being like mocked because I put a little bit of rímel, mascara, how do you say in English?
I know what you meant.
With English. So I realized then that when I left like you said, when I left the Kundalini yoga community, the first thing I did was putting on a lipstick and putting a rímel. I used to make my nails anyway because Satsimran, the facilitator, had her nails down. I was like,
Did she really?
If she does it, I can do it.
She also always looked very different. I heard, like when she wasn't teaching White Tantric Yoga. I mean, she didn't do like it was like she was a certain person in White Tantric Yoga.
She was, you know, I remember her as a fun person. I don't know the rest, but she loved my coffee, so it was fine. But yes, what you just said, it's interesting because literally I really recuperated something that I blamed for so long and obscured for so long. And honestly, I feel so happy now. Mm-hmm. I feel more in peace, and I even feel more integrated with that feminine aspect of myself. And I think the belly dance and the Qigong are the two things that helped me more than anything else to really love that part of me.
Yeah. And it sounds like you had that femininity pretty well established before Kundalini yoga, which is interesting to me because I think my childhood was so flexible and so blah, blah, blah. And my I went to the college that I didn't have to have grades and, and then after I got out of college, I created my own rigidity. I decided I was going to be raw vegan and I was going to do yoga every, and so when I found Kundalini yoga, I was like, oh, this is the thing to do. I was kind of looking for somebody to tell me you must do this because I wanted that. So, yeah.
Yes. Probably you had the opposite reaction while I was, how did they call me? I was a little bit loose for them. I was too fancy or, heels.
Well,
And
I didn't love it for a long time. It was like, I stayed in it for a long time, but I think I loved it for like a few months. And then I just kept doing it because I felt like, oh shit, I already signed up for this, you know?
yes. So, yeah, I understand the feeling. I was proud of myself because just a month ago, not even a month ago, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went in the city center where we have all the beautiful stores. And I went to my favorite shoe store and I said, I cannot buy shoes. I have shoes. But I was like literally pulled, and I went, and there were beautiful pair of shoes with really high heels. And I said, no, I cannot try them. I cannot try them. And the girl said, do you want to try them? Yes. And usually they are not.
Oh, lost. Hold on, we'll wait for it to come back. Sorry about my internet. Or I'll strike a pose to come in.
I had to buy
Here we
them.
are. Here we are. We did it. Okay, sorry. I lost you at the high heel shoes. The girl told you to try them
Okay.
on. That was all we got, and then you froze.
Okay, so I tried them on, and they were perfect. So I was like, oh my God, I cannot buy anything, but I really need to buy them. So I bought them. So they're
Oh my God, and like the shoes in Italy. I mean, that's almost like a,
they are absolutely like
yeah.
perfect. Like they enter my feet absolutely like gloves on my hands. And I said, no, I had to have these shoes. And so I got home and I put them on and I said, oh my God, I haven't been wearing these, and they're so feminine. Those are really important things that to nurture the feminine essence. Are you recording?
Yeah, I'm taking
Okay, so this is it's very, very important because it's healthy. It's not that you are doing it for someone else or for something else. You're doing it just for you to reconnect to that healthy aspect of you as a woman, because you're not the girl anymore. At 45, you're a woman. So it was something very symbolic for me at that moment. It's really, I took ownership of that goddess woman that I want to be. And it doesn't mean that I have to wear heels every day. It just means that I have them, and if I want to wear them, I can. You know?
just writing that down. Totally. Yeah. And I mean, you come from such a culture that I feel like really embraces femininity anyway. I mean, no? Am I
Remember that Italians are Catholic.
Oh, well, yeah.
Remember that, because there are different faces here. So on one side, we are not repressed, but on the other side, we are repressed. So a good woman dresses in a certain way, a bad woman dresses in a certain way. And then there are women that you cannot tame, and that's me, and you don't know where to put them because you don't know if they're good or bad based on how they dress, you know. And plus, you know, I'm not married and I have no children, so I'm more on the bad side than the good side. And when you are on the bad side, there are preconcepts. And I have been an actress and a dancer since I was younger, teenagers, and you know, that's a bad side. Because you know, you're an actress, so you're an easy girl. There are preconcepts. Yes, there are preconcepts.
That's what people think about actresses?
Yes. So yeah, I was very popular at the university for being the actress. So I was like, I had like a line of admirers until my friend told me, wait a second, they think that you are easy, that's why. And so I said, well, that's it. I'm not gonna go out with anyone. So Italy is a Catholic country, so there are things that get into our brain, like a brainwashing situation, um, that somehow makes us feel a little bit guilty if you are too feminine.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I do. If your video starts to freeze, I'm going to just try stopping mine. Because I think maybe it just doesn't have enough bandwidth at that moment. I'd rather that people saw you than so.
So I think that's the reason why I went so hard into Kundalini yoga, you know, to give myself like the saint type of perception, but it really didn't work. Yeah, it was like, let's correct myself.
A weird way to be a good Catholic.
Yes, like let's correct myself because you know, I wasn't giving the right message to the world.
Right, and they really impress that upon you. Like if you're getting the wrong kind of attention, then you know, then you're doing,
it's your fault. You're projecting
it wrong. You're not meditating enough.
Exactly. So I did Sudarshan Chakra Kriya for 2.5 hours for a year now.
Right.
It was insane just to clear my aura. So, yeah.
Yeah. Did you go through a period of feeling guilty about not doing all the things that you thought you had to?
After I left Kundalini Yoga, this is a difficult question. I'm not sure I felt guilty because I was so exhausted, and every time I sat down for a meditation, a Kundalini Yoga meditation, I got nauseous. So I was really literally getting very nauseous. So I couldn't meditate. I couldn't do any Kundalini Yoga at all, not a class, not a meditation. And I was one of those that woke up at 4 a.m. in the morning and did meditation for 3-4 hours and then went to work.
Whoa.
So yeah, it was kind of weird reaction. When I said, that's it, I'm done, I couldn't sit down, not even the long time sunshine. I couldn't do even the Adi mantra, zero.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel guilty, but I felt like if I don't do it, my life is gonna be ruined. Like,
right. Well, that's a type of guilt.
Yeah, that's why I say it's complicated because I was like, because I don't have the energy to sustain it. And in fact, my life went to ruin, but just because I was thinking it was going to ruin, so I was projecting the prophecy. But then I decided that I needed something else, and I started to practice more Qigong. And then, I went even to Zumba classes, which I love. If the teacher is good, Zumba is so fun. And I started to move the energy just differently. And I have been meditating since I was 9. So I started to do just Vipassana meditation. And that helped me, but I couldn't do specific Kundalini yoga practice. And I left way before the whole situation came out. So I left like a year before because something directly happened to me that I wasn't okay with, and I had enough. So that's why.
There were a lot of people that were falling out. I think that's the wrong word, that were discovering other things. At that point, I was, and 2 other women in my community also kind of at the same time, we were all going, there's other things that interest us.
Yeah.
And the thing that stuck out to me the most was I started listening to Abraham.
Me too.
And I kept I couldn't quite piece together why it just started to not make sense that I had to do so much to be a spiritual person.
Exactly. That's also another thing that was really hitting hard on me, because it cannot be so difficult. Like, it cannot be so challenging.
Yeah.
Spirituality, your connection with your soul should be so natural and so easy. And it's a more like, it was looking more like the Catholic experience. You had to pray, you had to say mea culpa. And I remember that when I was a child, I didn't want to pray this mea culpa. In Italy, we pray this song and we hit our chest and we say mea culpa, mea grandissima culpa. And I was like, what am I guilty of? Like, literally, I literally said that.
When the priest is speaking and you like talk back.
You have to, you know, hit your chest and no, mea culpa. And I was like, what did I do? Literally. And I was like 7, 8 years old. So, and I realized that I'm not that bad, that I needed so much work for 20 years. Come on. Now it's time to rest, to have fun. You know, I needed to have fun. I'm almost 40 at the time. And my change happened when I was 40. At 40, I started to say, hey, I gave you 20 years of my life. And now I have to kind of recuperate that fun part, you know, with, you know, I am a woman. So it's, and you know, I'm not that bad. I remember saying, I'm not that bad. Yeah. And because I was thinking to be really that bad. Right. And I was like, I'm not.
And the messaging was so mixed too, because I remember saying that in teacher training. I'm like, you know, it seems like you're saying if we don't do this, we're going to be bad. Or somebody in the teacher training, they were like, you know, it's not because you're bad. And I'm going to
tell them, like, karma.
This is like strange cognitive dissonance. Like, it seems like what you're saying is that if we don't do this, we'll be bad, but you're not using those words.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, and the old generation and whoever trained with the old generation, they use all the same patterns. So they learn from one another and they pass down the type of conversation, the type of communication. So I started to notice that I was doing the same. So I had to reprogram completely my brain, completely my mind. And I started to completely teach in a different way. And I started to communicate to people in a completely different way. And I have to thank a couple of students of mine from Florida, because they are really open-minded, that stick with me and, you know, stayed with me for up until now. They're still with me. And by staying in their presence, I started to really modify the way how I was communicating with students and clients and
what do you
even
think
friends and
changed?
People.
Like what do you think?
Like, first, I don't speak anymore in guilty type of communication. Like, I try not to make people think that they have a bad karma, so they have to do something to clear their karma. Because I don't think there is bad karma anymore. Like, I don't think karma is just neutral, and you just live the experience from yourself, and you make the experience a negative or positive. But you make the experience of what it is, and you change the affect because you have changed the attitude with which you take care of the situation. So you do not absorb the situation as it is, as a negative, and so it becomes a negative karma. So you have to be punished and you have to do something to fix the karma. No, you change the self-concept that you have about yourself. You change your perception of the situation, and the situation changes. It's not that bad anymore.
Right.
You know, it's challenging, maybe, you know, interesting to go through it, but it's not bad. It's not like you don't take it as a victim or as an abuser, so you have to be punished for what's happening to you. That's one of the major things that I have changed. Then I stopped saying people what they have to eat, how they have to dress. Eat what you want, as long as you're conscious what you put inside your body. Maybe junk food is not a good idea, but if you want to go to McDonald's one day, just go, enjoy it, bless it, please do it, and then, you know, live your life. But do not do not just avoid things because they are bad. They are bad because we give them the energy, bad energy. Or like they dress. I had students in Florida, all kinds of dress or no dress at all. And I loved it. I loved it that the people are free, and especially women. They came to my classes and they were totally free. So I learned to accept different realities, different expression, different way to relate to one another. And I learned to accept everyone completely. It's not that before I didn't accept everyone, but I might have had some preconcept because, you had to wear white, you had to have turban, you had to, earrings, no, two, no. And, you cannot expose your body. And I have students that expose their body and they're gorgeous, And I said, well, keep going, and because that's not the important is what they keep in their heart. If you are honest, if you're a good person, if you are generous and gentle and loving and kind, to me, you can go around with whatever you want, and you are respectful. You deserve my respect. That's where I'm coming from, and that's my position on that.
I felt from teacher training, and maybe you have a similar or different experience, because I find when I talk to people, we've all kind of had different, but maybe somewhat similar experiences. But I always felt like the way to teach was to talk as if I knew, like, I know this, you don't, like whatever comes out of my mouth is true, and I know better than you. It's more like, yes, I know better than you. And I really relate to the fact that you teach differently, because I teach differently too. I don't come from the standpoint of feeling like I know more than somebody anymore. I might know something different. I might be able to give someone an insight that they hadn't thought of before, but I feel like the most empowering thing is to be able to kind of lead somebody to go like, oh, I just figured something out about myself,
Yes, I have this experience, and this is very important because after 14 years, I started to practice Indian classical dance again with my teacher here in Turin, in my hometown in Italy. And I used to study with her 14 years ago. And then when I returned to Italy, I really needed to have a teacher. So I recontacted her and I asked her if she wanted me back, because, with the Indian teacher, you needed to be very respectful. And she said, of course. So I returned to her, and sometimes we do conferences with her teacher in India. And also Indian classical dance teacher, high level, those are called guru, because they're like masters in that specific discipline. And this woman is such an empowered woman. And she said something very important. I am a guru because I have more experience than you in this, but you are not inferior to me. It is my responsibility to train you well, because eventually you are going to perform and you are going to represent this sacred art. So as a guru, it is my responsibility to be precise, ethically correct, and teach you well. But I am the guru because I went through what you are going through before you. But she was talking about the technique and the practice itself. She wasn't putting herself above us, spiritually speaking, but technically she was way more prepared than us, because she was studying this practice since she was 9 years old, while we started when we were 20. And she's over 60. And acclaimed dancers all over India, so everybody bow to her. So it's when a teacher talks that way, she's empowering the students, she's inspiring the students to learn. and to follow the steps, because you're learning from a person that is highly qualified. But when you talk from a place, I know better than you and you don't know, let me tell you, but I'm not even sure you're going to understand. That's an issue, that's a problem. And what I have learned in my process, in my reprogramming, is I'm here to empower the other person. It doesn't matter if I know more, I have more experience, or this person knows more and more experience. If they come to me, they look for empowerment, and that's what I'm going to give them. It's in form of knowledge, in form of embodiment, in form of experience, technical experience. That will, it will emerge, and you will know what you have to do with that person. But if they come to me, they come for empowerment, because that's the duty of a teacher. Because if the teacher doesn't empower you, something is off. So the first question you have to ask yourself, does this teacher empower me or not? Do I feel empowered after her class or his class or not? Do I feel small after the class or not? So what do you feel? If you feel charged, if you feel empowered, if you feel integrated, that's the right teacher.
That was tricky too. I feel like definitely for students of Yogi Bhajan's and students of his students, because the language was that of, I'm here to empower you. But the actions that were taken, the, long sermons about how little you know and all this stuff. I mean, if you listen to his lectures, that I can't even count the amount of times where he was like, you don't know, you don't understand, you have no idea,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I said, because in written, like, Kundalini Yoga, the yoga of consciousness, and it's not consciousness at all. But anyway, in the written language, they could write anything, but we should have listened way better to the language itself, because as you said, you don't know, you have no idea. All these are disempowering right there. It's gaslighting 101. It's not like, but for example, I didn't even know what gaslighting was, because again, I come from a country that they're masters, Italians, of gaslighting one another. Culturally, we are the best and disempowering one another. So
why, I'm curious why you say that.
Because Italians, they're very creative people, but when you are too creative, someone will come along and say, that's too creative. I don't want to speak too bad about my co-citizens, because I do love them, but there are dynamics that, passive-aggressive quite a bit.
Okay.
So there is a criticism, culturally speaking, toward one another, especially among women. And so when I entered the yoga community, it was totally normal that you don't know anything, or you should learn that because you don't know it. It's never enough, because culturally your mother in Italy would tell you it's not enough. I grew up with a mama that was like, never enough. You didn't clean that too well, or you didn't cook that too well. So when I entered the Kundalini Yoga community, that was the normal language. So when I moved to the US, gaslighting, what's gaslighting? I realized what gaslighting was when 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's that?
I feel like a lot of us did, though. That became a popular term to me not very long ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was because I was dating a guy, and he did weird stuff mentally, and I'm not stupid. My brain went a little bit off, and I said, wait a second, that's not right. So I started to, and thank God I have a lot of friends who are therapists and psychiatrists. Like I have a list of them as friends. So I started to talk, and this person started to explain to me what gaslighting was. And that's when I started to see the dynamic also within the community, and how I allowed it. Because when you asked me, did you feel guilty of not practicing Kundalini yoga, I felt more guilty of, or I blamed myself for letting them morph my brain. Like, why did I allow it? Like, I'm an educated person. I know how to reason. I have been independent all my life. I'm untamable. Like, ask my mom. She was like, oh my God, they succeeded in something I failed. And I blame myself, and that's why I started to do the reprogramming on my language, and that's when I learned, PNL or NLP. Now I'm confusing Italians symbols and stuff, I started to really understand how this really works and mess up with your mind, because they also attach to your insecurity, your original guilt, maybe some trauma that is still lingering in your aura and in your mind, in your nervous system. So they kind of attached themselves to, it's like you have hooks around your aura and your nervous system, and these things attached to it, and because they can get nurtured. Because if you have some uncertainty, and self-doubt or insecurity or fear about something, it's easy to get in and manipulate that mind.
Yeah,
And
most people do.
Yes.
In fact, I don't know anybody who doesn't, but
Yeah.
I feel I watched a cool Netflix mini series about money, and there was one about scams, about scamming. And I feel like, and one of the beautiful things actually that I got from the documentary was some psychologist or sociologist at the end says, people ask me, how can we live in a society where people don't get scammed? In this case, it was like financially scammed, like Madoff and, like Ponzi schemes and stuff like that. But she said, I wouldn't want to live in a society where you couldn't be scammed, because that would mean that we would live in a society without trust. So I feel like everybody wants to trust, and it just, when people play off of your insecurities, that's sort of like a different aspect of it too. But
yeah, no, I understand that part, but if we take the other perspective, like if people wouldn't scam, the society would be free of scam, and each other, we can trust each other more easily.
Right.
Instead, we start from the perspective that someone is going to scam us.
It's normal, yeah.
And so the untrust alert, kicks in first. It would be more relaxing to know that, our society is completely free of scam. I received like 10 calls a day from scammers, and I don't even answer the phone anymore. And it's not just trust, it's a waste of my time. So they're stealing every time. It's like really irritating.
Sure. But I feel like we would have no trust if we expected everyone to be a scammer. So we must have like at least a much greater percentage of the population that's, living by some sort of integrity than.
Yes, we needed to also work on our intuition and our heart openness. And because heart openness is not necessarily like being stupid.
Sure.
It's actually an aspect of our intuition. So the more the heart is open to receive it, the more we are open to see the scum
Yeah.
and prevent it. While people close down and they actually make themselves way more vulnerable to scammers,
I
because then you become, you become insecure.
Right.
But with your heart open, you receive it immediately because you feel something is, oh no, that's not quite right.
Right. Right. And you wouldn't need it, right? Like if, somebody came up to you and they were like, oh my God, I have this way to make your life, so much better. And all you have to do is this. And you're like, well, I like my life as it is now. So you have
Yes,
to prove to me
exactly.
that this is like what, let's see
Exactly.
let's see the spreadsheet or, whatever. I don't see that this is
Yeah.
going to make my life that much better.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's 1:11 for me, which is kind of a nice little
Yeah. 8:11.
divine numer.
8:11. Yes, 8:11 is a good. Oh, 1:11, you said. Yes.
Yeah. Well, because I'm in Mexico.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Simona. Can you tell everyone how they can stay in touch with you and find out what you're doing?
Yes, so thank you for asking. Well, I have 2 websites. One is for yoga and qigong, also my dance practice like belly dance. And one website is www.simona, SIMONA, yoga.life. The other website is specific for Kundalini Rhythms Dance, and is www.kundalinirhythmsdance.com. And I offer private classes, empowering coaching program, live stream, and on-demand classes. So I have classes for everybody, including rentals and bicycle classes. So I have different options, and people can always reach out to me. And for belly dance, I have very beautiful programs for absolute beginners, meaning you have never done belly dance before. I'm specializing on absolute beginners and really introducing you to the dance and the history and the culture and everything.
Wonderful. Okay, I'll put all those links in the description box of the podcast and also the video if you're watching it on YouTube.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.